Hello, my Portuguese friends and others who are listening from wherever you are. It's great to be talking with you today. I'm so grateful that Sylvia Copio invited me to share just a few thoughts with you today about home education and what I see happening around the world with not just home education, but with education. And let me tell you, it is very exciting. I believe that we are witnessing a revolution in the way people are thinking about education. And let me tell you, it's long overdue. But first, let me just commend you as a homeschooling parent, myself of 7 children. I want to commend you. If you're listening to this, I presume that you are or thinking about becoming a homeschooling parent. And I want to commend you for thinking about becoming a homeschooling parent. And if you have children at home and are homeschooling, I want to commend you for taking up the cause of homeschooling in your own family. Because home education is good for children. For those families who take on this undertaking of educating our children, of bringing them up in the best way that we think, you are doing a very important thing, not only for your children, but for your community. But for children, we found that home education is a wonderful opportunity for children to explore areas that interest them, for families to be closer together. You know, when you send your children to school and you put them on the bus or send them off every day, they're at the school for 6 hours a day, and you know, who are they becoming friends with? Who's becoming their family? Well, not really you. Not really their siblings, but other people. I think, when we bring children into our family, it's so that we can raise our children, so that the family can be an important part of that child's life. We're the ones who are entrusted with making those decisions and with raising our children in the way that is most important, that we think is best. And I think all parents want to do that, or most parents, virtually all parents want to do that. I mean, yeah, sure, there are some bad parents out there, and they need to be, those children need to be taken care of, but that's a very small number. By and large, parents around the world love their children, care for their children, and are making decisions in their best interest, which is why I want to commend you. I want to commend you because choosing to homeschool your children is good for them, it's good for your family, and it's good for your community. The research is pretty clear on that. Here in the United States, we've had home education for almost 60 years as a movement. Now, after the global pandemic and many millions more people joining the movement, there are perhaps 4 or 5 million children in the United States who are being homeschooled. And, they've been researched, they've been studied, and the research shows that homeschooling works really well. Children are learning in an environment that is safe, secure. They can really spend a lot of time with the material instead of having to listen to other people or be in a classroom where you don't really get to spend as much time learning. And so it just works better. When parents are involved, when you are involved in the education of your child, that shows to your child that it's important. It's important to you. And you know what? Our children are designed to be raised by their parents. That's how we were designed. And the family was designed to be the most important place where children learn how to become adults and to interact with other people. And so I want to commend you. I want to commend you for thinking about homeschooling or choosing to homeschool your children. And I hope you'll continue to do that. I also want to encourage you, because I know that home education is not easy for whoever's doing it, whether it's mother or father. Usually we know it's the moms who are doing the homeschooling. I'm very grateful to my wife, Patricia. We've been married for 31 years almost, and she has done so much investing in our children, our 7 children. 4 have graduated from high school and are either graduated from college or in college. We still have 3 at home. Our youngest is 12. And, we can see the benefit and how home education equipped them to pursue what they're interested in. It works. it works really, really well. But it's not easy. And, sometimes the things most worth doing in life are not easy. It requires us to make trade-off decisions, or some would call them sacrifices. I'm not sure if I would call it a sacrifice when you get to spend so much more time with your children, but other people might say it's a sacrifice. The world, society looks at women today very differently than they used to once upon a time, and I'm not sure that it's so great, so healthy. Children need their mother, especially when they're younger. They also need their fathers. They need mothers and fathers. We all need family. We all need that kind of community to support us as we're growing up, to help us think through difficult things and to learn. When we're born, we need to be taken care of. And as we grow, we need someone to help teach us and train us and encourage us. And that's parents. That's the job of parents. But it's not easy. And but it's worth doing. So I want to encourage you, even though it's not easy, keep on investing in your children. Homeschooling is, it's one of those things that it takes time to see the fruit. It's not an instant thing. And that's true in any learning, in any environment. Learning takes time. But little by little over time, the benefits multiply and they compound, and the outcome is really worth it. But I know it's not easy. Sometimes, who doesn't want to have a little quiet time, or maybe would want to pursue some other kinds of interests. But I appreciate you parents who have made that choice to stay home and invest in the next generation. Homeschooling makes a difference. So let me encourage you to keep on doing that. Home education is under pressure around the world. Why is that? I wonder if you've ever given any thought to that question. Why are there some governments, like in your own country, that want to make it harder for people to do something that is so good for children? Well, I have in my office here something I want to share with you. I have this plaque that I keep in my office. It has a saying on it from one of my favorite U.S. presidents, Ronald Reagan. It says, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same." You see, freedom is something that is very precious, and it isn't something that just comes automatically. The freedom to do things, the freedom from tyranny, is something that we as free citizens have to secure. We have to watch over it, we have to guard over it, and we have to be engaged. And we can see around the world that there are authorities who want to restrict our freedom, who want to restrict your freedom to do what's in the best interests of your child when it comes to education. I believe that every parent should be the primary decision maker when it comes to choosing what kind of education a child should have. That's what the Universal Declaration on Human Rights says also. It says that in Article 16.3, the family is the fundamental group unit of society. And it says in Article 26.3 that parents have a prior right to decide what kind of education their children should receive. You see, the framers of the Universal Declaration on Human Rights had just come through World War II. And they saw what had happened with societies, particularly in Germany under National Socialism, where that government had nationalized the education system and was trying to use education as a weapon of war. And the framers of the Universal Declaration realized that if parents had been the ones making those decisions, it probably wouldn't have happened. And so they realized we have got to put this into the Universal Declaration to make sure that we make a stand and say, you know what? No, government is not the primary or even most significant decision maker when it comes to education. It's the parent. It's the family. And so if you're in a country where you are being restricted in your right to homeschool, you have to push back. You have to tell the government you are going against human rights, because they are. Okay, if they're making it difficult for you to homeschool in countries like Germany, where they don't allow it, that's the worst of all. That's a complete violation of the rights of parents. And it troubles me when I look at the history of the world and I see that happening. Because why would government want to make it difficult for parents to homeschool their children? Well, it's because they would prefer to be in control of what children learn. And that's a problem. Governments that want to control what people learn, what children learn, are trying to control society. And that is 100% in opposition to freedom. And so when Ronald Reagan says freedom isn't more than one generation away from extinction, we can see that. We can see that in France, where President Macron wanted to ban homeschooling, and the French are in the fight for their lives still, even today. We can see that in your country, where your Congress has made it more difficult for you to homeschool your children. We can see that in countries like England, where they are fighting to impose more restrictions on homeschooling in that country. And so, my friends, we have to fight for this freedom. Otherwise, our children won't have it. So, I want to commend you for making the choice to homeschool your children. You're doing a very important thing for your children. You're giving them an opportunity that many others will not have. What you're doing is good for your children. It's good for your society. It's good for your community. I want to encourage you to keep on doing it, even though it's hard. You probably have started to see some of the fruits, but you will see the fruit of that labor even more in the coming years. You will be able to benefit from those relationships that you have with your children. Your children will be able to benefit from the relationships they have with their siblings and with the others in the community. And I want to ask you, I want to invite you to join us, to join this movement, to preserve the freedom we have for our children and for our grandchildren. If we don't act, what kind of future will they have? Do we want them to have the freedom to homeschool? Of course you do. I do as well. The only way that is going to happen is if we work together to engage with our leaders, with the policymakers in our countries. If we gather, we have to gather together to engage in this discussion with other people in our society, with our neighbors, with churches, with church leaders, with community leaders, with civic leaders. We have to reach out to them and explain to them why this is important, why it's important for us to be able to choose to home educate our children without interference. And we can only do that together. You know, I'm reminded of the story in the Bible of Gideon. You know, there were lots of people who wanted to join Gideon to defend, his people. And in the end, there were only 300 people who God said, okay, Gideon, you're going to have 300 people to go up against this huge army that is coming against you. So it doesn't have to take a lot of people, but it does take 300 or so. And, are you one of those people? Maybe you are. Are you feeling something about getting involved? You may be feeling that in your spirit, or you may be feeling like, I feel like I want to become involved in this movement. Well, I would encourage you to do that. We need more people to be involved to make the case for homeschooling in lots of different ways. You can do that in your local community. You can do that by being a support group leader, by serving other homeschooling families. You can do that by even running for office in your community if you're a homeschooling parent. It's great. Here in the United States, we have so many homeschool graduates and homeschooling parents who are running for and being elected to political office so that they can then have a voice to ensure that our freedom is protected. We need that. We need people like you to do that. You can get involved with organizations like MEL in Portugal, or with the GHEX, the Global Home Education Exchange, and serve on a global basis, or within your country, or within your state or province. There are so many opportunities for us as homeschooling parents to be involved to protect our freedom. It's a freedom that is worth protecting. So let me invite you to think about how you could be involved, and find someone in your community, whether it's in a support group or in a state or provincial organization, or in a national organization, or even a global organization. We all can do a little, and together, if we all do a little, that's a lot. So my friends, I want to thank you for listening. I hope this has been interesting for you, encouraging for you. I hope that someday I'll be able to come and visit you in person in Portugal or wherever you are. It's been a privilege for me. Many of you may know that I am no longer working as the Director for Global Outreach at the Homeschool Legal Defense Association. I'm working with the United States organization called Yes Every Kid, where we are working to transform education here in the United States, which is very exciting for me. I'll just take a moment to explain a little bit about that. It's very exciting because I feel that, what we do here in the United States, I think, could serve as a model for what's happening around the world. And we are looking to change, well, more than change, we're looking to transform the way we do education here in the United States so that it becomes more kid-centric and family-focused. We believe that parents are the ones who should be making those decisions, ultimately. And that's why we also support homeschooling. We support all kinds of educational opportunities for children. And so we're trying to make that happen. And let me tell you something. There is a lot happening here in the United States in terms of making changes in the way we do education and creating micro schools and learning pods and just empowering parents to have greater options for their children to learn in an individualized way, because every person is unique. Every child deserves to have an individualized educational experience. And that's really hard to do in an institutional environment, but it's easy to do in a home educating environment. So I want to commend you, I want to encourage you, and thank you for what you're doing. I want to thank Sylvia for inviting me to share with you today. God bless you. God bless the homeschooling movement. My friends, I'm not sure if Sylvia is going to be able to add this into what I just said or not, but I'm going to send this along and hopefully Sylvia can include this. But there's two things that I realized I didn't say, and I wanted to just make sure that I said these two things very quickly. Number one, homeschooling is a global movement, and you're part of it. You are part of a movement around the world of parents who are taking up the call to home educate their children, a challenging but rewarding task, and you're not alone. I think that's really important for me to say, and I meant to say that earlier during my remarks, but you are not alone. You are part of something really big. So don't ever think you're just this one family in some small town, even if there's 20 of you. You are connected to something really big, really powerful, and really important. Don't ever forget that, okay? And the other thing is, homeschooling is imperavel. I had to say that especially. Homeschooling is imperavel. You know what I mean. There's no way this movement can be stopped. It is happening. It is going to happen. It is growing. And when parents decide that they are going to homeschool their kids, you can't stop them. You know what I mean. Parents will always find a way. But as I said in the video, governments will get in the way. And that's what we've got to work on. So anyway, just a little postscript here. I had to just say those two things. Thanks, Sylvia. I hope you were able to add this in. God bless all of you. And I hope to be able to see you soon.